Thanks again for introducing me, and I appreciate have an opportunity to be here today. I was a lucky man as a member of academic elite back to 1999. However, never in my wildest dreams did I expect to be thrown into jail, survived on the verge of a mental disorder, being tortured physically and mentally between 1999 and 2005. I had lived under the shadow of fear, depression, and panic by CCP before 2005. Why did the Chinese Communist regime target to me? Because I refused to give up my faith in Falun Gong. It was assumed. I think the next time in my following speech, I will use CCP to represent the Chinese Communist Party. I hope everybody understands that. Okay. Back to 1999, I was a PhD candidate in China's prestigious university called Tsinghua University. People call it Chinese MIT. And in recent international rank, it ranked about top 23 in the world. So before practicing Falun Gong, my academic life was filled up by modern science. However, my spiritual world was empty. Many times I was confused about the good and the evil. When I saw people in my age who didn't mind to take advantage from others, I was very confused. Many times I asked myself, am I stupid not to compromise ethical values for personal gain? In a society lacking of moral standards, selfishness and deception became normal in China. People who practice selflessness and integrity were loved, and schoolmates and neighborhood. This is a consequence of CCP's wholesale destruction of China's traditional cultures, values, especially during Cultural Revolution, 1960s and the 1970s. I was fortunate to find Falun Gong in 1998. I think Mrs. Levin already introduced what Falun Gong is: an advanced self-cultivation practice rooted in ancient traditional culture, which facilitates the transcendence of mind, body, and spirit. It includes five such gentle exercise in meditation and emphasize living according to the universal principle of truth, compassion, and tolerance. It became extremely popular in 1990s in China. The number of Falun Gong practitioners actually reached about 100 millions according to Chinese government statistics. Think about 100 million practitioners. I still remember those wonderful days, and I became a kinder and energetic person with inner peace. By embracing Falun Gong, think about in China, over 100 million people reclaimed peaceful and meaningful life. Is that something the government should celebrate? CCP have a different thought. They suddenly everything changed, fearing that Falun Gong's popularity and independence would win the hearts and the minds of Chinese people, and fearing that Chinese people who hold the religions would not accept the brainwashing of Chinese communist regime's ideology. On July 20, 1999, CCP dictator Jiang Zemin launched the nationwide campaign against the Falun Gong. Jiang made the policy: destroy their reputation, bankrupt them financially, eliminate them physically. About 70 to 100 million practitioners being targeted that time from all walks of life. Still going on today. Nowadays, Falun Gong is the largest group that CCP is targeting to eliminate. It's a religious genocide. When you step out this room today, if you forget anything I talked today, please remember the one thing. Falun Gong is the largest group CCP is targeting to eliminate. My peaceful life was destroyed. I clearly remember when the hate propaganda was running 24/7 in all CCP-controlled media, the dehumanizing propaganda instilled hatred toward Falun Gong into many Chinese people's mind. We were portrayed as subhuman who didn't have constitutional protection. If you meet some Chinese people who recently migrated to USA, no surprise they will have a negative view about Falun Gong because they were poisoned so much. They never have opportunity to see the truth of Falun Gong. Since then, I had been constantly denied all of the most basic rights, such as freedom for religion, speech, and assembly. I was not qualified as a PhD candidate anymore until I gave up my faith of Falun Gong. I was detained and imprisoned 4 times, longest as 3 years, sentenced to jail. In detention center, the police encouraged other inmates to pour cold waters to my naked body at midnight of coldest winter. It continued half hour until I was frozen and lost consciousness. And then I was thrown onto the floor. I revived after several hours, and I found myself naked and people watched me. That's the moment I would never recall. In prison, I spent 6 months in solitary confinement in a 20 square foot room, utterly deprived of any human contact. Towards the end of jail time, I was on the verge of a mental breakdown. I escaped China, communist China, in 2005. Recent years, the peace I enjoyed by practicing Falun Gong has been threatened once again. Why? CCP has launched a campaign of transnational repression of Falun Gong in American land. First, let us review the leaked document from China's Ministry of Public Security in June 2024. Mobilize covert agents to intensify internal conflicts within Falun Gong, while relentlessly enhancing the power, sophistication, and the reach of social media influencers, targeting both Falun Gong and Shen Yun. This campaign must attract the sustained attention of American society, compelling the United States government to respond decisively across all fronts until Falun Gong's presence is fully dismantled. Do you think it's familiar? The strategy is to spread the misinformation, disinformation, manipulate public opinion, and pressure U.S. government to act against Falun Gong religious group and its affiliated organization, such as Shen Yun Performing Arts. Anyone never heard of Shen Yun? Yeah, someone told me oh, you never heard? Oh, okay. People probably never know that Shen Yun actually is established by Falun Gong practitioner and rooted in the Falun Gong faith. Their mission is to renew China's traditional culture before communism and share it with the world. The company has grown from established in 2006 and has grown from a one tour company to 8 companies and perform in more than 200 cities in 22 countries with every year with 1 million more than 1 million audiences every year. It will come to Raleigh, I think, in March 7 and 8 in 2026. If you want to enjoy, just the information. The tactics of the transnational repression are media warfare and lawsuit warfare. How? On media warfare, New York Times led the way. Since August 2024, New York Times published serious hit piece targeting Shen Yun and Falun Gong. The narratives in the New York Times stem from small biased samples, some former practitioners, less than 1%, whose story contrasts sharply with the overwhelmingly positive experience of over 1,000 current and former Shen Yun performers. The reporter of the New York Times interviewed only less than 1% who had complaints, but ignores 99%.
Fake news media.
Yes. Current and former practitioner with positive experience. Why? Why New York Times did this? I respect this. I respect this media before, but actually, New York Times have long history of biased view on the Falun Gong issue. When the persecution began in 1999, they reported some with positive view, but since 2001, the publisher of New York Times visited China and have a meeting with Chinese dictator of Jiang Zemin, and then since then, New York Times was allowed to distribute in China, mainland China, typically in college campus. New York Times has negative and biased views since then about all the Falun Gong issue, and on the Falun Gong issue. There's a former New York Times reporter who testified on the panel 2019 said whose name is Didi Tatlo. She wrote she did the investigation about forced organ harvesting. That's Mr. Jarvis mentioned before on his speech. She did a full investigation and did a good article, write a good article. And in 2014, finally, publisher killed her article, didn't allow her to publish.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's New York Times. And anyone who still read New York Times, I think you're going to be brainwashed.
That's right.
And another fact on the media warfare is using social medias. Anyone heard of the YouTuber influencer Tim Pool? Tim Pool.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Robert.
He's a conservative influencer whose YouTube channel Timcast has 4 million subscribers. Mr. Pool disclosed in October 2024. He was personally approached with an offer to propagate CCP-backed content, anti-Falun Gong narratives. He said, "I'm pretty sure I got offered this at one point. They said they'd give me $200 to post a video to my YouTube channel. Of course, Paul declined the offer, but he said others likely accepted, attracted by financial incentives. Mr. Luke mentioned that CCP dominated social media. Here is another example. And another example is like last year on the X, the X removed thousands of fake Chinese accounts, boosting New York Times hit pieces. 80% of accounts posted identical content, suggesting a CCP coordinated network. The second tactic, lawsuit warfare. How? In May 2023, DOJ indicted two CCP agents who attempted to bribe IRS officials with the intent to revoke the non-profit status of Shen Yun Performing Arts. Both men pleaded guilty and were sentenced to prison in 2024. One of them is John Chen, who appears to have met with the Chinese President Xi Jinping and also attended high-level CCP functions, according to the court document. Also, Mrs. Chen and a co-worker had traveled to New York, Orange County, where Shen Yun's headquarters is located, to surveil the Falun Gong practitioners there and collect material for an environmental lawsuit to inhibit the growth of local Falun Gong community, according to the court document. What Shen was doing really near the Shen Yun headquarters aligned with CCP tactics of lawfare. If you want to know more about this transnational repression, I brought some brochures and cards, here and on the table, left side of table. Before you leave, make sure you take one to help yourself. This movie called Unsilenced. Actually, I was on that movie. This awarding movie. With background story, I was involved in Tsinghua University when persecution started. Our group of students stood up and exposed the crime to the foreign journalist. So then later on, we were persecuted seriously. This movie tells you that. It's a very good movie. So, do you think CCP could be successful in American land?
Yes.
Could I be persecuted here in American land?
Yes.
But for myself, I still hold confidence to American system. I believe it could not happen, because USA, I believe, is still a beacon of hope, even though this recent years it declined a lot. I know, still be a beacon of hope of oppressed people. I have met so many people like you here, who have wonderful hearts. You stood up to protect other people's rights, even though you disagree with other people. This is the core values which makes American great country. We are lucky to live in this land. God bless you. Thank you.